regret. It's something that we've all dealt with at some point of our lives, and it's also something that we all should avoid. And there was a saying I seen one time, and it was basically saying everyone has two lives until they realize they only have one, right? There's the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And quite frankly, a lot of people are building a life that they're going to regret until it's already too late. And I myself, luckily I have, time on my side to some extent. However, I still have had a few things in my life that I've, looking back, maybe I could have done differently. Maybe I could have changed this, X, Y, Z. But I also choose not to look back and think, man, I should have done that. But what I will say is, going forward, we all should try our best to not live life in regret, because quite frankly, it can kill you. And not because of some massive mistake people make. A lot of times it's because, I or you guys have said yes to too many things that didn't matter, or no to the one thing that did. Maybe you were out in public and you saw a girl and you wanted to talk to her and you didn't talk to her and you regretted it and you never saw her again. Or maybe you got offered some really good job and you were scared to make the move, scared to make the jump, you never did, and now you're stuck in a dead-end job, or just whatever it may be. Maybe it's the job you hate, maybe it's the passion you keep putting off, or maybe it's just the version of you that you could become, right? If you stopped running from discomfort or stopped running from change. And, this video, it's not going to be about motivation, right? It's not going to be some guru type stuff, but it's going to be about the truth. And I'm going to show you how to live in a way that keeps regret from ever catching up to you, right? Because regret, it's really like a shadow, or a shadow at sunset more specifically, right? You ever watch a sunset, whether it's like with a spouse or something like that, or maybe by yourself, right? The shadow will grow longer the more you slow down and stop chasing what matters. But the moment you move towards your purpose, towards the light, the shadow gets smaller, right? So you don't outrun regret with speed, you outrun it with direction. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you guys need to think about, okay, what are the things that I want in my life? Or where's the, direction or position I want to be in 5 years from now? And a lot of people, if you ask them, hey, where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? They couldn't even tell you an answer, right? They couldn't even give you some basic description. And I'm not saying that you need to know exactly what you want to do, because quite frankly, a lot of us don't. I myself didn't know what I wanted to do, and I still don't necessarily always know. But I have a general direction of what I want to accomplish and where I want to be. I know kind of where I want to live, who I want to be with, who I want to take care of, the friends I want to roll with, things of that nature. And most people live on autopilot, right? They don't know exactly where they want to go. If you ask someone, hey, where do you see yourself, or where do you want to be in the next 10 years, and they can't give you any clue of what that answer may be, that's like hopping in a car and literally not knowing where you're going. You don't even know where you're going to drive. You don't know where the destination is. You should at least have some baseline level of direction wherever you want to go. And I think this is what causes a lot of people regret, because quite frankly, guys, whether it's in sports, whether it's in, your career, whether it's in relationships, everyone's going to deal with fear, anxiety, some of those things. But most of the regret always, and I mean at least 90% of the time, comes from just not doing something. If you go up to a girl and you ask her out, right, and she denies you, that might hurt, but at the same time, you're not going to regret doing that. If anything, you're in a better position because you know that it's not worth it anyway, right? The regret comes from not doing stuff, right? It comes from the comfort zone, right? It comes from being in that cage of where, it's kind of like, I've heard someone say this before, and I also resonate with this. Laziness breeds more laziness. If you're someone and you're kind of just comfortable, you're just getting by, that's a really tough position to be in, because someone who is per se at rock bottom, or someone who, has nothing to lose, they almost have more motivation, quote unquote, to some extent. And, you really regret the thing that scared you. You regret staying stuck because it was easier. And I've noticed this in my life and certain periods of my life and things like that. But your life, guys, it's going to change the moment you get honest with yourself, right? Even I've done this to myself. And you guys need to sit there and ask yourself, am I really proud of the way I'm showing up right now? Am I really proud of the way I carry myself day to day? Am I really proud of what I'm doing in my life currently? And honesty is painful, but it's the beginning of power. If you're someone watching this and, maybe you're overweight or something like that, the reason I bring this up is speaking from experience. I used to be overweight when I was younger, and like getting on the scale is like, that's honesty. Like the scale, unless your scale is like on a bouncy ball or something, assuming it's on solid ground, it's going to be pretty accurate. I mean, it might be a couple pounds off, but like regardless, if you step on that scale, you're going to find out pretty quickly what you weigh, right? Most people avoid the scale in their lives. They'd rather not take the risk. They'd rather not, try to start that business or leave their current job or, go ask that girl out. They'd rather just stay comfortable, just go home, watch Netflix, watch YouTube. And hey, guys, I'm glad you're watching YouTube because you're at least watching me. So I appreciate the support there. But still, my point is you're going home. You're not doing what you need to be doing. Anyone who's watching this, I always encourage you to get done what you need to do in your day, for sure, regardless of what's going on in your life. And most people lie to themselves, right? For years, they just avoid the pain of starting over, or they avoid the pain of what they need to do. And, even myself, like quick story time here. So for you guys that have been around the channel a little bit now, you know that I have experience running, certain small businesses, physical service-based businesses, and as well have transitioned into sales, more specifically tech sales, as of the last few years. And when I made the transition into sales, there was a job that I worked in between the physical business and the sales, and that was a recruiting job. And it was a job that I worked for 11 months, and I had to face the honesty there where I was working this job and I was making $40K. So in my opinion, not that good money, right? I was making $40K. It was fully in office, and it was in a building, like a physical building, and I would go in every day, clock in at probably around 7:45, 8, and I'd leave at 5. And there's nothing wrong with office jobs. There's nothing wrong with jobs in general, but this job in particular was just super, super, super micromanaged. So just to give you an example, my name isn't John. My name is actually not John in real life, but I'm just going to use the name John as an example. So my manager would come to my desk and she would almost talk down to me. She'd be like, hey, John, make sure you do this. Or hey, John, did you see that I sent you a Teams message? How come you haven't responded to it? She would literally fucking talk like that. And it was the type of job where if you got up to take a piss and you were gone for 7 minutes or 6 minutes and your Teams thing went yellow, the fucking CEO would call you to see if you would answer. This is how uptight they were. And on top of that, I don't want to get into the whole politics stuff, but I worked on a team of all women, and I was the only male, and my manager was also a female. And I really feel they were low-key misandrous. They had something against me because I was a guy. Something like that. I don't know. But it was just funny because we were supposed to, in terms of hitting your KPIs and the corporate jargon, we'd have a Monday morning meeting, right? Talk about BS corporate jargon. And then we would have to get 15 submissions a week. So, this can vary depending on, the world you live in. But in the recruiting world, and especially at this company, a submission was basically you called someone who had their resume at a job board. They were looking for a job. They're a good fit for a job. And you screen them, interview them, and write them up and submit them. So you're supposed to get 15 a week, which is 3 a day, which is doable. I mean, it can be hard because we were sourcing for some BS jobs, but it's definitely doable. And I was top of the leaderboards week in and week out for submissions, for outbound calls. I was on the phones, I was calling people, I was screening them, and I was leading the team in submissions. And regardless, every single month, I was still getting pulled into the office by my manager, and she was telling me, John, you don't have enough submissions, and I said, well, I have the most on the team. What do you mean? And she's like, well, don't worry about the team. You need to be getting 25 submissions, even though the goal's 15. I know you can do more. So she was saying that because she knows that I can do it, I need to do more. What kind of BS is that, guys? I remember sitting there in this job, and that's when I knew that I needed to get out of this job. I knew that it was a dead end. And the thing that really sealed the door for me was I was someone that wanted to make more money. I'm not saying you need to be money motivated. I'm not saying everyone should be, but I at least wanted to be making six figures or at least more money than I was making. And I remember there was a couple other recruiters there that had been there like 4 or 5 years. And one of them in particular, his name is also not this, but I'm just going to use it for example reasons. Let's just say his name was Sam. It's not, his name wasn't actually Sam, but so I was like, I remember talking. I was like, hey Sam, like just curious, like there's a lot of recruiters that work here. There's some that've been here for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. One of them is even an account manager now. Just curious, like, do any of them make like six figures? Do any of them make like really really good money? And he's like, nah. He said the top recruiter made 75 here, and then the one that's an account manager, his base was still like 50K, and like he was making like 65 with bonuses. And I remember like sitting back in my cubicle, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're telling me that someone's been here for 5 years in a role that's supposed to be commission driven. Because that's the thing, guys. It wasn't like I was in a job where like I knew I'd be making 20 an hour. Like this job, you were supposed to be able to hit commission, but there was always an excuse. The comp plans were always changing. There was always something going on. And I was like, I need to get out of here. So that led me down the rabbit hole of sales. I experimented with high ticket sales. I experimented with, getting on offers. And then eventually I got led to tech sales, and I joined a program, and I put in the effort, work, and I landed my first tech sales role like shortly after that. And I remember my manager pulled me into her office, I actually requested to meet with her. And in that same meeting, she was talking about how they actually were going to have to decrease salary. So a lot of the recruiters are making about 40K. She was telling me how, they're actually gonna have to drop people's salaries down to 35. And I already had my offer letter from this other company. I hadn't accepted it yet, like at least officially. And I just remember I pulled it out of my back pocket and I set it down in front of her. I was like, I'm done. I appreciate everything you guys have done here, but I'm done, and I'm taking the leap, and I'm getting into the sales. And that's what I did. And the rest is history. And my life ain't perfect. There's still things that I mess up on. There's still things that I can improve on, but I definitely do not regret leaving that job. And if any of you guys are listening to this, man, if there's something that you want to do, whether it's leave a shitty job you're in, or if it's, just anything, whatever it may be, whether it's getting in the gym or going to ask a girl out or starting a business, like guys, like the only regret you're going to have is the regret of not trying it. Like if you try something, especially if you're younger, like if you're 45 and you have a ton of bills and you make good money in a job, like I understand it might be slightly harder to make a jump. However, you can still try stuff. Like you can always start something while having a job. I have a video about that as well. But regardless, guys, like if there's something that you want to do, want to try, or want to just take a shot at, you got to make that jump, guys. You can't live in regret. And take it from myself. I've regretted things in my life, and looking back, my biggest regrets were not doing something, right? Not participating in this or not taking this risk. And guys, action is the only cure for regret. Motion builds momentum. Confidence comes from the proof of doing these things. And you don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need a 10-year plan. I understand that you want to have a direction for those things, but you just need to do the hard thing today. You just need to take action. You need to kill the version of you that was living on pause, living in comfort, right? Living in hedonism, right? You don't need that stuff. And most people, like, they don't regret their mistakes. They regret their hesitation. They regret the moments they knew they were meant for more and did nothing about it. You don't need to burn your whole life down, but you do need to move. You do need to do more, or at least try new things. And, if you're listening to this, you made it this far in the video, my question for you guys is, what's the one change you've been avoiding because it scares you? What's the one thing that if you just were to try it, it would erase that feeling of feeling you didn't try. And if you were to look back, 5 years from now, what would you wish you started today? Right? Even this YouTube is a prime example. As I'm recording this, it's been a couple months that I started this YouTube channel and it's going well. But man, looking back, I wish I would have started this 8 years ago, right? But we can't do that. And looking back, like I said, I wish I would have done that. But looking back, I cannot change that. So all I'm doing from here on out is making sure I'm putting the daily input so I don't live in regret from here on out. And drop it in the comments, guys. I read every one, and maybe, just maybe, writing it down is the first step to finally moving forward. Level Up Strategy out.